Hello and welcome back to bicyclelegs Talks Music and another episode of Favourite Albums of All Time. I haven't done one of these for a while, so welcome back to this series. And today I'm going to be talking about an album that really is one of my absolute favourite albums of all time. Probably a top 10 album of all time for me. It was originally released on the 13th of August 1996 on Elektra Records. And it is the debut solo album by this gentleman, and that is Jason Falkner presents Author Unknown. This has never had a vinyl release, unfortunately. I look forward to the day that it does, if that day ever comes. And, Jason Falkner had been in a latter version of the 3 O'Clock. He was then in the early version of Jellyfish. He was on their first album, Belly Button. He left the band because he wasn't getting a lot of opportunity for his own creative outlet, to write his own songs and sing his own songs and that sort of thing. So he formed The Grays with a bunch of other people. That was supposed to be a really democratic band. And that only ever lasted one album as well, and then Jason finally went solo, managed to snag a deal with, a major label, Elektra Records, and released this absolute masterpiece. How would you describe this music? To me, this album puts the power in power pop. It's power pop, but it's really crunchy. It's, it's got a bit of an edge to it, and but then there's also these beautiful mellower parts. There's strings on this album, and Jason Falkner, he's such an engaging vocalist. He's maybe not technically one of the most gifted singers you'll ever hear, but there's a real humanity to his vocals. He's got a baritone voice. He doesn't sing really high or anything like that. And but there's real heart to his vocals, and a bit of an everyman quality, and I really like that about it. Musically, he plays almost everything on this album. The only things he doesn't play on this album are the string section and one guitar solo, which is referred to as Bumblebee guitar, which is played by Alain Johannes. So everything else is Jason Falkner: guitars, bass, keyboards, drums, percussion, it's all there. And I want to go through this track by track because there's 12 songs on this album, and it's just a masterpiece. It starts off with the wonderful I Live, which it starts off with this lovely little sort of, just light-hearted bit at the beginning where you hear Jason's voice go, needs a little more volume. Nah, shut up. And then the song starts. And, right from the beginning, you get this impression of Jason as this, humble everyman kind of guy, who's very earnest. And I love that about this record. It's very earnest. It's the lyric, the first verse: swear to God, cross my heart, stick a needle right through my eye. She's the one that I've seen smile at me when she's driving by. But I turn away as if it isn't enough just to say to myself. And then the chorus, if I had you, I could never ever ask for anything again as long as I live. And it's just beautiful. And it's got this really crunchy riff that, and it's just great. And then these, great sort of piano and keys. And it's just such a brilliant way to start off an album. Catchy as hell. Should have been a big hit single. I'm not even sure if it was released as a single or not. If it was, any of these that have been released as singles, I'll try and put pictures up as we go along. But I think I Live should have been an absolutely massive hit single. Yeah, I know 1996 wasn't a big sort of era for power pop and that sort of thing, but This song is just so darn catchy. It's just wonderful. And then you get Miracle Medicine, and those two kind of segue. You know, the end of I Live segues in the beginning of Miracle Medicine. And again, you know, I mean, Miracle Medicine's even more up-tempo than I Live. You know, it's really great. And this is where you get that bumblebee guitar solo at the end by Elaine Johannes. And it's just absolutely wonderful. But this is a really hard, rockin', crunchy song. And yeah, again, winning lyrics. You know, just like, it's like I'm dizzy all the time, he said as you get back in line. I've been to 3 or more like him who all say I should do just fine. You know, it's just the, you know, whatever faith I had in your miracle medicine is out the window with the birds, has been replaced by the Indian. You know, it's just a wonderful song, and really crunchy, and yeah. Then he dials it back just a little bit with Hectified. You know, it's sort of mid-tempo. It's still rocking. Love Hectified. I think this is one of the songs that gets a little overlooked on this album, and it's a shame. You know, you know. Well, I've talked about the future. Lord knows we've talked about the past. When I know the time is just right, good God, I only hope it lasts. I've got some friends who feel important. Seems they've swayed some who really are. It's just a trick of natural lighting, makes my mind seem very far, so far, because we've retired all that came before. And I loved his lyrics. Again, you know, they're not, you know, deep and meaningful and trying to be poetry and all that sort of thing. Again, there's a real everyman quality to his songwriting and his singing, but then there's an otherworldliness to his melodies, and I love that. And then we get into a couple of songs that just absolutely tear my heart out. They're so beautiful, so gorgeous. And then the first one of those is Don't Show Me Heaven, which just such a beautiful song. You know, the chorus is, you know, till then, my God, don't show me heaven. I don't want to have to tell them there's more. And I love that about it. You know, train of thought slips my tracks once again, and I'm holding the hand of a long lost friend. It's a light that I've seen in your curious eyes, like the things we're supposed to see when we die. Can I help it? I want to see more and more, and I need more. Just absolutely beautiful song. But then he one-ups it even then with my personal favourite song on the album, which is a song called She Goes to Bed. And like in the space of a 3-4 minute song, he shows everything that he does musically. You know, it starts off really quiet and acoustic. And then it builds and it builds, you know, and the strings come in and give it this wonderful atmosphere. But then it gets into this like instrumental verse after the first 3 verses, and you know, it's and it gets really crunchy and heavy. You know, this guitar solo. It's just absolutely brilliant. There's no chorus to this song. It's just verses. And the story of this song is just so gorgeous. You know, it's something that I really resonate with. You know, it's a song about being really good friends with a woman, and, you know, being happy for that friendship, but also, you know, maybe wanting it to go a little further. And I remember at high school, there were 1 or 2 girls that I was friends with that I felt very much like this. And this song really, you know, even though this album came out when I was in my mid-20s, it reminded me of those times and those feelings. And, you know, And it's just such a beautiful character study. You know, and the third verse, we play with some words you might not have heard, but we're never afraid of sounding absurd. And it's not hard to see the way this could be. And if it's all right with you, then it's okay with me. And this song breaks my heart every time I hear it. It's just so gorgeous. And then we get Nobody Knows, which is another really gorgeous, fragile song. You know, have you seen my baby? Where she goes, nobody knows. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous song, showing his delicate side. A beautiful vocal on this song too. You know, the verses are a little sort of more rocking, and then the choruses are really quiet and delicate and fragile. And you know, I love that sort of dynamic in the song too, which is absolutely beautiful. And that's the first half of the album. Then we get into, you know, what I think of as side two, you know, even though it's never been released on vinyl. And, you know, I always think of it as side two because, I mean, we're on to the second half of songs. We've had the first 6, we're going into the second 6. But also the song Follow Me, it just sounds like a side opener. It really does. If you go and have a listen to this album, tell me Follow Me doesn't sound like it's, you know, the opener of side 2 of a record. It totally does to me. It's, you know, we're back into more rockin' territory here, more power pop, just great playing, great singing, wonderful, wonderful melodies. And again, those lyrics, you know, follow me, you'll like what you see, pull yourself out of your own history. I'm someone that you've come to believe. Follow me now, I've got just what you need. You know, it's just like, you know, it's just this wonderful sort of lyric about, you know, come and be with me and I'll make things better for you and that sort of thing. But yeah, and then we get them absolutely gorgeous. You know, this is like the absolute tour de force for the strings on this album is a song called Before My Heart Attacks. And this is another one that absolutely gets me in the feels every time I hear it. And I've heard this album literally hundreds of times. You know, this is really quiet and mostly strings. And it's, you know, Jason at his most vulnerable. You know, both the way he sings, but also the lyric. You know, he's obviously talking about himself being down in the dumps and in a really bad place. You know, the flowers I bought when you took off are wilted in the vase, or vase, as he sings. There's something here beneath the hair that kind of looks like my face. Garbage man, oh garbage man, why won't you leave my street? How can this street possibly excrete this much trash 7 days a week? And I am here and you are there, and it don't make me feel any better, my baby blue, my new you-know-who, bring your sugar back before my heart attacks. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And then it's followed up by Afraid Himself to Be, which is a really interesting lyric. It's about somebody who's like imitating the singer and not being them, you know, they're afraid to be themselves, so they're pretending to be somebody else. And it's got this wonderful 6/8 feel to it, which I love. I'm a sucker for a 6/8, that you know, it just has that rolling sort of feel to it, you know. And he starts off, you know, sort of being quite sympathetic, you know, anything you want, anything you need from me, don't be afraid to ask, because I am here for you. But then he sort of gets accusatory in the choruses, you know. He says, one thing I know is true, what once was me, everyone now believes is you. Originality was never big on your list of things to be. So, I mean, it's an interesting song, you know. And it starts off, again, it's one of these ones that starts off kind of acoustic and then gets more and more electric and crunchy as you go along. But it's just got this wonderful feel to it. And it's a really interesting lyric, as I say. Then we get Misunderstanding, which is misunderstanding, as in someone called understanding referred to as miss. And it's one of the really great up-tempo rockers. And, it's got a bit of a humorous lyric to it. So, yeah, I mean, I absolutely love it. What I tried to hide is that I knew you lied. And it's cranked up my pride so incredibly high as the time goes by. I can no longer deny that a part of me died when I met misunderstanding. It's just absolutely wonderful. Really great up-tempo song. And then we get the second last song, which is I Go Astray. Again, a really good song. It's up-tempo, it's energetic, it's melodically brilliant. And it seems I finally found a way by which to say how I'm sorry every day I go astray. So, I mean, again, this is one of these ones that starts off quiet and builds up. And it's great, So, but then the last song in the album, absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous song. It's called Untitled. And again, it's one of these wistful songs, like Nobody Knows, or She Goes to Bed, or Don't Show Me Heaven. And again, these lyrics really get to me. When a dog chases its tail, you just know the poor thing is going to fail. It seems you finally caught yours. Last seen with a friend and a family member. Pitched black outside, bright white indoors. Come back inside. It's just, it's an absolutely gorgeous song. And then it changes tempo at the end. And goes into a different feel. And like the strings come in and it's just, and he just sings this last section. It just gets to me as a way to end an album. He sings, "You may not have been able to change the world, but at least you changed my world." I'm getting choked up just repeating that lyric because it just absolutely gets me. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's Jason Falkner's Presents Author Unknown. That's the cover again. This album sold next to no copies. Between the time it was released in August of 1996 and March of 1997, in the US apparently it only sold about 6,000 copies. That is a travesty. I don't know what Elektra were doing, what Elektra were thinking. They obviously didn't promote this record. Apparently they didn't even give money to Jason to put a band together so he could tour it. I saw Jason Falkner live a few years later. He was opening for an Australian band called The Clouds. My sister and I went to see him down on the Gold Coast. He was playing solo. He had no band. It was just him and a guitar. And it was absolutely wonderful. And we got to have a bit of a chat with him after his set. And I don't think we even stuck around to see The Clouds, which is ridiculous because The Clouds are a great band. But he was absolutely wonderful in concert. We were right up the front. And it was just fabulous. And just an absolute travesty that this album sold nothing. Because I think it's one of the best albums that's ever been made. I'm not overstating the fact. As I said, this is probably a top 10 all-time album for me. So please let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on this album? If you know this album, please let me know what you think of it, what your favorite songs are from it, all that sort of thing. If you've never heard this album, please, please, please go to your listening app of choice and give it a listen, beginning to end, and just let me know in the comments what you think, because I'd love to, absolutely love to hear from you about that. Please do like, share and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted, so if you want to see some of my other favorite albums of all time shows, I have a playlist for those. If you want to see some of my studio albums ranked shows, I have a playlist for those. And if you want to see my appearances on other people's channels, I also have a playlist for those. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram, Twitter, and a bunch of other places. I also have a dedicated Bicyclelegs Facebook page and Bicyclelegs merch. Links are all in the doobly-doo. Please do give those all a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.